As pre-hospital care providers, there's a form of abuse and neglect which, sadly, we're all likely to see in the course of our careers, probably multiple times. It happens when a caregiver abuses drugs or alcohol with a child in the home. Now, we run overdose calls all the time, and sometimes we find out that a child lives in the very home where the parent or guardian has overdosed. This does in fact constitute abuse and neglect, as it has the potential to place the child's safety in jeopardy.
Police in Massachusetts looking to file child endangerment charges, look at this, against a mother who apparently overdosed on heroin in a store with her toddler next to her. Investigators have been looking at this YouTube video. It has been viewed millions of times by people, and it seems to show the woman sprawled out in the aisle of a store as her 2-year-old daughter tugs her hand, trying to revive her. You can hear the 2-year-old crying there for her mom.
Is your river?
Dashcam video just released by Lorraine Police shows us a better idea of what officers came across when responding to this 911 call.
He is not a danger to others right now unless he wakes up and starts driving. And it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
This video revealing to us what officers saw Monday night, a crashed minivan in the area of West 24th and Route 58. Inside the van, 29-year-old Nathan Carroll and his infant. Nathan overdosed, lost control of his van, and just narrowly escaped hitting a tree. After this, officers rushed to his home where they found his wife, Samantha Schiegel. Their other kids were also at home.
Your husband just overdosed and almost crashed the car with your baby inside.
Is she okay?
She's okay, yeah.
The mom told officers she snorted a powder with her husband before he left with their baby.
Even when another capable adult is available to care for the child, the very nature of drug abuse occurring at the home continues to pose a serious threat of child endangerment. And for that reason, it is SCAD's position that crews should call the hotline any time an overdose has occurred where a child is present or could be present should another overdose occur in the future. Make the call. I should mention that this guideline applies to all situations that give you reasonable cause to believe that a child is living in dangerous conditions that endanger his or her life or safety. An example of such conditions might be a child living in a squalid and dangerous environment, whether it be a structure infested with rats, a house that looks like an episode of Hoarders, packed with so much junk that it poses a very real fire hazard, something of that nature. Now, if you're not sure whether conditions meet the criteria, go ahead and make the call. Let social services make the decision. That's their job, not ours. Children are not the only victims of abuse and neglect. Sometimes we forget that there are other groups whose vulnerabilities place them at high risk. These include the elderly and persons with intellectual or developmental disabilities.
Last year, Missouri received 25,000 reports of elder abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation.
A 98-year-old Colorado Springs woman surrounded by filth died on her bathroom floor.
Investigators say she had not eaten solid food, bathed, or changed clothes in several months.
Had to remove her from the chair. Her skin was melted to the chair.
Suffering from a severe burn to her leg from a kerosene heater spill that happened weeks ago.
2 former nursing home employees are facing charges. They are accused of abusing patients.
And the 2 are accused of recording the incidents on their cell phones because they wanted a good laugh.
What we could see of the inside of the home showed rooms packed with clothes and trash. Vicki Martin says these are the conditions her friend Barb Tuggle was in for 2 weeks.
The odor that was coming from the place was just unbelievable. Piles of trash, dog feces, stuff just stuffed anywhere and everywhere.
Her 84-year-old mother, June Morris, has fallen at least 6 times
while in the care of workers at Liberty of Middletown Nursing Home.
Sores on her back from lying on the bathroom floor as long as 2 weeks before she died.
They found him sick and living in squalor. Granddaughter Melissa Goodnow says there was no heat or water in the place. The place was overrun with roaches, and the elderly man had no bed. He slept on the floor, surrounded by stacks of soiled diapers.
At 83, Clara spent 7 years in the care of nurses at Three Rivers Nursing Home in Miami Township. Earlier this month, a nurse's aide noticed the jewelry was gone from her hands and neck. Police say this woman, 27-year-old Heather Wilson, another nurse's aide at the facility, admitted stealing it.
Elderly abuse can be defined as any physical or mental injury, sexual abuse, negligent treatment, or maltreatment of an adult by a person who is responsible for the welfare of that adult. Now, that being said, there are times when the only person responsible for the welfare of the older adult is the older adult. Self-neglect is a very real issue, and we've all encountered it at some time or another in our careers. And if you haven't seen it yet, I can guarantee you will. Whenever you find elderly adults living independently yet in squalid, deplorable conditions because they're simply unable to care for themselves, call social services. The goal here isn't to take someone's freedom and independence away, it's to get them connected with people and resources that can help them, whether it be through a support program such as Meals on Wheels, home health care, or possibly long-term care if necessary. For more information on the abuse of elderly adults, see SCAD Policy 8. This is 14-year-old Lisa. Lisa died from injuries she received at the hands of her adopted mother. When her body was examined, officials found more than 200 injuries covering her entire body, 82 of them fresh and 130 others that were at least 3 weeks old. Those older injuries included a healed broken rib, a cauliflower ear from repeated injury, and lips so scarred that the muscles were actually starting to degenerate. Lisa is just one of thousands of disabled children and adults who are abused and neglected every year. People with disabilities have a higher risk of being abused than people of the same age who are without disabilities. Children with disabilities are at least 3 times more likely to be abused than children without disabilities. In addition, the abuse is typically more severe, is more likely to occur multiple times, and is more likely to be repeated over a longer period of time. There are several possible reasons why persons with intellectual or developmental disabilities are at greater risk of being abused. For example, they may be used to having their bodies touched by adults without their permission simply because of their need for physical assistance. They may misunderstand or lack knowledge regarding things like personal privacy and boundaries. They're less likely to receive education on things such as body safety or healthy sexuality. And in the case of children with communication impairments, it may be very hard for them to tell someone that they're being abused. What all of these factors have in common is that they increase the disabled person's odds of being abused because predators may perceive them as weak, vulnerable, or less likely to report the abuse, and that makes them easy targets. For these reasons, it's critical that we remain vigilant for any signs of abuse and neglect in this particular population.